Welcome to another edition of EJH British Cars. So today we're going to work on the front suspension of the TR2. We already showed you how to fit the trunnions. That's the assembly here. So in between we've fitted these arms using the bushings onto here. Assembled this upper A-arm assembly, which is all pretty straightforward stuff. Figured you could not need to see that necessarily. So today we're going to install the springs and go from there. So this is, because of TR2, the early cars up to the change in TR4s somewhere in the first few thousand, they use a shorter spring and a spacer, and the factory says to use just rubber here and there, which is quite practical, but I like to add another one here. Just a little bit more noise isolation. I suppose it picks up the ride height some small amount, but not really worried about that. So what we're going to need to do is we need to install this into the spring pocket here, and then we need to put a spring compressor on it, which is this here. It's something I made decades ago. It's just a piece of 1/4-inch plate and a threaded rod. So once we get the spring collapsed, we can put the lower pan on. This is the lower pan. Goes on in this orientation. And then we're going to have to take the spring compressor out to be able to put the shock in. So we're going to need to compress this. Now, if you're just working on your own car and your car is essentially complete, all you do is you put the wheel back on and either jack up under the wheel to get the suspension compressed or lower the car down, whatever it is you feel like you need to do to make it all fit. So I'm going to fit the rubber up into the cone. There's an inner cone here. The spring is designed to accept the spring, but instead we're using the spring spacer. And that should stay there. So I put just a little silicone grease on the rubber so that it would slide into the spring, otherwise it just hangs up. You need to push it down. And it's going to want to come out because it's tapered, but it's okay. Then need another ring up in the tower. I'm going to keep this plate pretty low in the spring. And you also want to make sure you have clear access from below. And you feed it through. Through the top shock mount. So you want to make sure you compress this enough that you can get this up and get your bolt started. And you want to get these two rears first because they're the most difficult because they get locked in when that pushes down again. Don't forget to put your rubber isolator pad on the spring perch as well. So we slide that in. And of course it doesn't want to go right now. There we go. And we get our nuts started. Okay, so we got all the 6 bolts on. Don't forget to put your rubber bumper here. This is the bump stop for there. So this spring is slightly canted to one side. So I'm just going to put this bar in here. Just want to make sure it stays centered on that rubber cup. I'm going to lower it back down. Pull it up pretty tight to compress it enough. easier to put it down than it is to reel it in, I'll tell you that. It took a little poking and prodding, but we got the threaded rod on the inside of the rubber. The rubber is seated on there, and the spring is on the outside of the rubber. And there you can see it's all in. And there's the aluminum spacer right there. This thing's loose now. This is pushed down. I kind of left, this is just loose, give myself some extra space to let that spring, the lower that spring pan can be before you start all this, the better off you're going to be. So what we're going to do, well, it looks like it's going to rain, so I'm going to pack this up for now, but tomorrow, or whenever it stops raining, the next thing to do will be to bring the shock up and through here. But that'll be for another episode. So that'll conclude it for today's episode, front springs installation. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and we will see you next time.